Hello everyone, it's the Red Bull talking about the biblical beards and the lying pens of the scribes. Jeremiah 8:8. How do you say we are wise and the Torah of Yahuwah is with us, but look, the false pen of the scribes has worked falsehoods. Let's keep this verse fresh on our minds as we embark on today's journey. For we are told by all modern accounts and by all depictions that the patriarchs of the Bible sported beards. So today we will be testing how accurate this actually is as we hold it up against Scripture. Keep in mind that I am capable of growing a full beard, so I have no stake in disproving the beards of the Bible if it is actual and factual. If you are also capable of growing a full beard, you are mixed. And at this point, almost everybody in the Americas is mixed in one way, shape, or form. I believe the three original people groups on the face of the earth were not capable of growing full beards until the mixing, but that is a story for another time. The alteration of the true appearance of the Hebrews holds significant implications reflecting a broader narrative of history manipulation and persuasion. For those that are in power, particularly the governing bloodlines, have historically employed various strategies to shape public perception and reinforce their agendas. This manipulation extends to the creation of the collective belief system that obscures the truth, making it challenging for the individual to discern the reality of their heritage and the world around them. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for recognizing the extent of the influence wielded by these forces and the ease of which they can sway the majority into accepting the constructed narrative. Despite the common portrayal of biblical patriarchs with beards, the scripture contains surprisingly few references to beards amongst the Hebrew people. While cultural depictions often emphasize facial hair as a symbol of wisdom and masculinity, textual evidence from the Bible indicates that beards were not universally present amongst the Hebrews. This discrepancy highlights the differences between artistic representation and the historical realities of ancient Hebrew historical texts. If this information is shocking to you and this subject is new to you, I suggest you go to my profile and check out some of the other videos that I have done in regards to the Americas being the true promised land and the Native Americans being the true Hebrew. Now let's look at all the scriptures I went through and see how many times they reference beards in their account. The book of Enoch, 0 accounts. Book of Jubilees, 0 accounts. New Testament, 1 maybe. Book of Jasher, 1 Canaanite. Book of Baruch, 0 maybe 1. The Quran, 0 maybe 1. The Old Testament, 6 maybe, or maybe 0. You be the judge. We will be taking an in-depth look at all these texts and all these scriptures, and you could judge for yourself whether they are specifically talking about beards. We are told that the New Testament does not contain specific direct instructions or mentions of beards. However, the New Testament does reference the Old Testament, which contains regulations about beards. Or does it? This is a common text that is usually referenced to show that Yahushua had a beard. Isaiah 50:6. I gave my back to the smiters, and my cheeks to them that pluck off the hair. I hid not my face from shame and spitting. I believe that this is a mention of the Messiah, but I don't see the word beard here. Although back in the day, Native Americans could not grow a full beard, but they still had facial hair, which sometimes they plucked. Now let's take a good look at the Hebrew word that they translated into beard. We see the Hebrew word Zaqan is the word commonly translated as beard, but we also see here that it also means chin. In my opinion, I find it weird that in Hebrew they would have two distinct words to distinguish between head and hair, but when it came to chin in beard, they would only have one word for both. Here's the thing, what if Zaqan is a Hebrew word that primarily means chin, which was later interpreted as beard by those that interpreted the Hebrew books into English? Just thinking out loud again. Well, Let's take a look at the book of Jasher and the one reference to beards on chapter 77 verse 6. This is in reference to Pharaoh Adikam, and Adikam was exceedingly ugly, and he was a cubit and a span, and he had a great beard which reached to the soles of his feet. This text is basically talking about this Pharaoh that was about 3 feet tall and had a beard reaching to the soles of his feet. Which, if you're familiar with the book of Jasher, you understand that the pharaohs are a bloodline from the Canaanites who usurped the throne away from the children of Mizraim. Now let's take a look at the Quran, which also is said to have one reference to beards. The Quran does not explicitly mention the act of growing beards, nor does it mandate the Muslims to have one. However, we are told that it does mention beards in the context of the prophet Aaron. Surah Taha 2094. And answered, Son of my mother, do not seize me by my beard, nor by my head. I feared that on returning you might say, You sowed discord amongst the children of Israel and did not pay heed to my words. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? But lehayate is the word translated into beard here. Lehayate in Arabic translates to for my life or to my life in English, and it is a phrase often used in Arabic as a term of endearment. We are told that lehayate doesn't mean beard in the traditional sense. It's likely a misspelling or a misunderstanding. We are told that the root word lehaya is commonly translated as beard. It's important to note that the exact meaning of lehaya can vary depending on its context or interpretation within the Islamic law. Scholars define lehaya as the hair under the chin, while others include the hair on the jawbone as part of lehaya, which in my eyes doesn't equate into a beard. Now let's take a look at the book of Baruch, which is said to have mentioned beards a single time in Baruch 6:31. It is interesting to note that 3 out of the 6 different interpretations of the verse do not include the mention of beard. In their temples the priests sit with their clothes torn and their heads and chins shaved and their heads uncovered. The Hebrew word zaquan is used here as beard, but as we know, it can also be translated as chin, which makes a lot more sense here. For the sake of this video, I'm not going to read all these accounts in the back, but I find it interesting that all the translations of the book of Baruch that we went through were actually translated by the Catholic Church. We're also told that there isn't one simple Aramaic equivalent for beard that applies consistently across the entire Targum of Jonathan. We see here that the Aramaic word for beard is also Zaqan, and it is also used in Hebrew with the same meaning. Now that we covered the books outside of the 66, let's now move to what most consider the canon, or the books that are commonly found in the New and Old Testament. We see that the New Testament doesn't make a direct reference to beards. This lack of emphasis suggests that the early Christian community did not consider beards a matter of religious significance. I find it very odd that not one mention, but yet we are led to believe that Yeshua had a beard. Now we will cover the 5 remaining texts in the Old Testament, and instead of using Zaqan as beard, we will translate it as chin and see if these verses make more sense. Ye shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shalt thou mar the corners of thy chin. Impair the appearance of or disfigure, which makes more sense to me. The corners of your chin would be your jaws, which would be your sideburns, which is probably why you see a lot of this. Next up, Leviticus 21:5. They shall not make baldness on their heads, neither shall they shave off the corners of their chin, nor make any cuttings in their flesh. To me, Zaqan, meaning chin, makes a lot more sense. Now we move to 2 Samuel 10:4-5. Therefore Hanun took David's slaves and shaved off half of their chins and cut off their garments in the middle, even to their buttocks, and sent them away. And when they told it unto David, he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Tarry in Jericho until your chins grow back, and then return. To me, I don't see why Zaqan would need 2 meanings, because chin makes perfectly good sense in all accounts. Now, I'm going to leave Zaqan as translated as beard in this text so you could see what I'm talking about. Leviticus 13:29-30. If a man or a woman has a plague upon the head or the beard, then the priest shall see the plague. And if it looks deeper than the skin, and the hair in it is yellowish and thin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a dry scale, leprosy, on the head or beard. You see, chin is the only word that fits on all accounts. Now moving on to Psalms 133, 1-2. Behold, how good it is and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment or oil upon the head that runs down upon the chin, even Aaron's chin, and goes down to the skirt of his garment. This is not referring to his beard hanging down to his garment. This is talking about the oil dripping off his head to his chin to his garment. Which leads us to the last account in the Old Testament, Ezekiel 5:1. And thou, son of man, take a sharp knife, take a barber's razor, and cause it to pass upon thy head and upon thy chin. Then take the balance to weigh and divide the hair. So, what do you think? As a recap, biblical accounts of beards: Book of Enoch, 0. Book of Jubilees, 0. New Testament, 0. Book of Jasher, 1. Canaanite. Book of Baruch, 0. The Quran, 0. Old Testament, 0. Till next time, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, may Yahuwah bless you.